Yes, hello, everyone. It is I, President and CEO of Gaza Hotel and Casino, Donald Trump. And I'd like to welcome President Zelenskyy here to this incredible trap. It's going to be a big, beautiful trap, and we're going to attack him very soon for no reason, right, JD?
What you saw was from Saturday Night Live, but we're going to talk about the real version of a meeting Donald Trump and JD Vance had with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. I'm Lil Demmie, joined as usual by Uncle Sam.
Many were surprised by how this meeting went down, but the end result was inevitable, as Jon Stewart explains.
How does this make America great again?
It just does not make any sense.
You poor, dumb bastards. It makes perfect sense if only you watched professional wrestling. Do you get it? It was a heel turn. I'll explain it again. It was a heel turn designed to create the alliance Trump always wanted in the first place. What's to understand? Trump and the Republicans like Putin better. Just listen to Putin.
The radical neoliberalism destroying traditional values. The obsessive emphasis on race. Modern cancel culture. It turns into reverse discrimination, reverse racism. They invented 5 or 6 genders, transformers, trans. You see, I do not even understand what it is. Shared toilets for boys and girls.
Cats marrying dogs. Will and Grace reboot? I mean, come on! It sounds like Putin is primarying Marjorie Taylor Greene from the right.
It's an honor to have you here. Thank you very much for coming. We're going to sign the agreement at the conference in the East Room in a little while, right after lunch. And we'll be having lunch together. We're also discussing some other things. And we appreciate everybody being here. It's somewhat of an exciting moment, but the really exciting moment is when we get when they stop the shooting and we end up with a deal. And I think we're fairly close to getting that, and an honor to have you. And please, I'd like to say something.
No, thanks so much, Mr. President. Thank you for the invitation. And really, I hope that this first document, will be first step to real security guarantees for Ukraine, our people. I think that the United States on our side from the very beginning of occupation, and I think that President Trump on our side, and of course, I'm sure that the United States President will not stop support.
Apart from showing Zelenskyy thanking Trump, these other clips should show you that you are not watching a signing ceremony that got derailed. According to Trump, a deal had not yet been reached, and he was hoping to reach a deal with Zelenskyy and sign it in a different route later after lunch. Zelenskyy still wants to get 3 things in a deal: military technology sharing with the US participating in a tripwire force after the ceasefire, and some programs about Russia returning abducted Ukrainian children.
How we can exchange the licenses. We're open to share the licenses of all our drones with you, of course, with the United States, and we need licenses for quick production of air defense. I want to speak about the contingents. I think that France and UK already spoke to you, and we know that Europe is ready, but without the United States, they will not be ready to be as strong as we need. Russians, they stolen 20,000 of children, Ukrainian children. They changed their names. They changed their families, relatives, and now they're in Russia. We want to bring them back.
Zelenskyy didn't speak English when he became president of Ukraine, but he's doing this entire meeting in English, which leads to occasional miscommunications. He's also being surrounded by a White House press pool that's now being picked by Trump's press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, instead of the White House Correspondents Association. So this meeting is basically Caitlin Collins from CNN and a bunch of right-wing propagandists like Breitbart and Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, Brian Glenn.
You ought to focus on CNN on survival, not asking me these ridiculous questions. Focus on surviving, because CNN's got such low ratings, I don't think they're going to survive.
Why don't you wear a suit? You're the highest. Why don't you wear a suit? You're the highest level in this country's office, and you refuse to wear a suit. You just want to see people. Do you own a suit?
Yeah, problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not respecting the dignity of this office.
I will wear a costume after this war will finish.
You're not even wearing a suit. It's disrespectful. Who shows up to the White House in a t-shirt and jeans like a garbage person?
Some guy from Russian TV station TASS also got in, and based on his accent and the questions he's asking, I think he's the one who asked the next question and the critical question later that gets JD Vance to jump in.
Mr. President Trump, you have repeatedly called the deal with Ukraine as a historical one. And as a President of the United States, you make historical decisions in other issues which affect America and other world. So what place in the world history do you want to take? And do you associate yourself with any famous historical figures?
Yeah, I'd say George Washington, Abraham Lincoln.
The Americans have gone to Saudi Arabia and they've negotiated with Russians. That's not the same thing as a peace process. These are all huge concessions, which either shouldn't have been made or should have been kept from the negotiating table, which puts into question whether actual negotiations are in fact intended Russia to come to a serious negotiating table, because they look at the future and say it's worse than the present. Unfortunately, so that's not my idea. I mean, that's just logic. Like, that's just basic political science, game theory, and military history. It all points in the same direction. If you want an aggressor to come to the negotiating table, you have to make it harder for them to carry out aggression. The future that Ukraine is looking at is having to fight Russia without the United States, because that's the future that we've now given them. We haven't offered them a better future than the one that they've now got, right? What we're offering them at the moment is a worse future. We're saying you should concede to Russia now. You should concede our mineral rights to the United States, your mineral rights to the United States, and you should stop resisting Russia in exchange for nothing.
It's obvious that Trump is looking for scapegoating instead of peace. What makes it obvious isn't the style of the meeting, but instead the phoniness of the supposed deal. The US and Ukraine are in a meeting without Russia, discussing a partnership for jointly mining rare earth minerals, which Trump keeps calling raw earth, as though he's getting Ukrainian dirt. There are no borderlines being discussed, because that discussion needs the Russians. And when they negotiate with the Russians, they don't discuss the borders because the Ukrainians aren't there. And the Trump administration just gives concessions, such as sanctions removals, in exchange for nothing.
Yeah, we're going to have arms to Ukraine, yeah, sure. Hopefully I won't have to send very much, because hopefully we're going to have it finished. We're looking forward to finishing this quickly. We're not looking forward to sending a lot of arms. We're looking forward to getting the war finished so we can do other things.
How much money is the U.S. going to put into the fund that is being created today, and how does this provide long-term security for Ukraine?
Well, we don't know exactly how much, because we're going to be putting some money in a fund that we're going to get from the raw earth that we're going to be taking and sharing in terms of revenue. So it's going to be a lot of money will be made from the sale and from the use of raw earth. And as you know, our country doesn't have much raw earth. We have a lot of oil and gas, but we don't have a lot of the raw earth. And what we do have is protected by the environmentalists, but that can be unprotected, but still it's not very much. They have among the best in the world in terms of raw earth. So we're going to be using that, using it for all of the things we do, including AI and including weapons and the military, and it's really going to very much satisfy our needs. So it's something that just worked out really well. We have a lot of oil and we have a lot of gas, we have a lot, but we don't have raw earth. So this has just about every component of the raw earth that we need for computers, for all of the things we do, which puts us in great shape.
Long-term security for Ukraine.
I think they're going to have great long. I think once we make the agreement, that's going to be 95% of it. They're not going to go back to fighting. I've spoken with President Putin, and I feel very strong. I've known him for a long time, and I feel very strongly that they're very serious about it. And we'll make a deal, and when the deal is made, I don't think, we talk about security, everyone's talking about the other day, all they talked about was security. I said, let me make the deal first. I have to make the deal first. I don't worry about security right now, we have to have a deal. I don't want to talk about security yet because I want to get the deal done. You know, you fall into the same trap like everybody else. A million times you say it over and over. I want to get the deal done. Security is so easy, that's about 2% of the problem. I'm not worried about security. I'm worried about getting the deal done. The security is the easy part. Security is very nice. Everybody stopped shooting. And now will Europe put people there? I know France is going to. I know the UK is going to. I know other countries are going to, and they happen to be right next door. We haven't committed, but we could conceivably. You know, we have security in a different form. We'll have workers there digging, taking the raw earth.
On the minerals field, Mr. President, some of those minerals are in the east of Ukraine, not far from the front lines and in areas that Russia has occupied. Will you direct President Putin to withdraw his forces from those areas if there's U.S. interest?
Well, we'll take a look at the time. We have a lot of area. It's a very big area we're talking about, so we'll take a look. I'll study that and I'll see.
And who would protect those minerals if they are U.S. interests? Would that be Ukrainian
They'll
forces?
be protected. The agreement will protect them.
After Zelensky talked about his 3 goals at the start, reporters asked Trump questions for over 20 minutes before Zelensky got active. Trump kept talking about how getting a deal, i.e. talk, is what's important, and that talk is in itself the protective action. And Zelensky gets involved to say that they need action like adding an American trip by force, not talk.
Yes, if I can answer, sorry. Please.
And I do like your clothing, though.
Yeah, really?
Even though I think he's a great guy, by the way. But I don't know if you two like each other. But you know what? I think
I like this guy.
I think he's dressed beautiful.
So I have more serious things than answer on such questions. I will answer on more serious questions if I can. Yeah. So please, about security guarantees and about just ceasefire. We can't just speak about ceasefire and speak. It will not work. Just ceasefire will never work because I'm like the president. I have this experience, and not only me. Ukraine before my presidency, from the 2014, Putin broken 25 times. 25 times he broken his own signature. 25 times he broken ceasefire.
But he never broke to me. He never broke.
No, you were the president. You were the president during.
He never broke to me.
In 2016, you've been the president, Mr. President. You've been the president, but he had, of course, not with you, but he had during those periods. He had conversations with our side, and we had Normandy format. You know, the France, Germany, Ukraine, and Russia, and he broken 25 times. That's why we will never accept just ceasefire. It will not work without security guarantees. Security guarantees, maybe President is right about this document and other, but this document is not enough. Strong army is enough because his soldiers afraid, Putin's soldiers afraid of our soldiers when we're strong enough. If we are not strong enough, if we are empty, if our storage is empty, we can't defend our land. Today, you know, he knows that we have all the world knows that we have meeting, yes? Why he's using ballistic? Putin today using ballistic on our hospitals, schools, and it says ballistic. So he knows that we are here and that President Trump is really have goodwill to stop this war. And you hear now the president. So why he's using? So he doesn't want to stop. He doesn't want. But I hope that we will do it. Really, we'll do it. Security, when we speak about security guarantees, when the Europeans are ready for contingents, they need USA backstop. If there will not be United States, we will not never have any contingents, strong contingents from the Europeans, because they don't want to divide alliance, connection between the United States and the main and strongest ally and Europeans.
Instead of a moral argument, Zelensky is going to try to explain how it's in the US's self-interest to provide a lot of military support for Ukraine. Zelensky is saying that even though the US is separated from Russia by the ocean, Russia would invade Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania if it could get through Ukraine. Zelensky is talking about how then the US would have to send American soldiers into Europe because of NATO's Article 5.
We really defend Europe for today. All Europeans really recognize that we are defending the line and they have real life and our people are dying. That's why they helped us. And also it's about the NATO. Yes, between, like the president said, you have big, nice ocean. Yes, between us. But if we will not stay, Russia will go further to Baltics and to Poland, by the way. But first to the Baltics. It's understandable for them because they've been they've been in the USSR, they've been one of the republics of the USSR, and Putin wants to bring them back to his empire. It's a fact. And when he will go there, if we will not stay, you will fight. Your American soldiers, it doesn't matter, do you have ocean or not, your soldiers will fight.
J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio had both been silent until late in the meeting, when Trump name-drops both of them and asks Rubio to complain about the UK not having enough free speech.
We thought they took it very, very much too far. J.D. was very strong on it, so was I, so was Marco, and we've been speaking to him about it. Marco, would you like to say something?
Vance also decides to jump in on this topic, which is ridiculous considering the Republican press pool that they've enforced for this meeting. After the meeting, they've also attempted to deport a permanent resident because of his Gaza-related speech at Columbia University.
The only one that what unites us is Europe, as much as anything else, is these shared values, and one of them being free speech. So Americans are threatened by it. We're going to need to take action in that regard.
It's actually a very important question.
We spoke about this in detail with the Prime Minister, the Foreign Secretary, and others at lunch yesterday. And I know that Secretary of Commerce Lutnick followed up in private meetings last night. This is really important. We believe Americans have the right to speak their mind, even if we in this room disagree with them. They have the right to speak their mind in the public square, which is often online these days. And we're going to defend that right as it pertains to American companies and American citizens vigorously if we have to. I do think that under the President's leadership, we're going to find common ground with our friends in the UK on this question, but it remains to be seen. The principle that will guide us is we believe in free speech in this country and we'll fight for it for American citizens.
Poland was under Russian control for decades after the Second World War. When I was a kid, I looked at the United States not only as a most powerful country, richest country in the world, the country that has a great music, great movies, great muscle class, but also as a force for good. And now I'm talking with my friends in Poland, and they are worried that you align yourself too much with Putin. What's your message for them?
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal. You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, "Hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal?" It doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin. I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America and for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world, and I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred, and I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, him either. So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world. I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe. I want to see if we can get this thing done. You want me to be? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough, but you're never going to get a deal that way. So that's the way it goes. One more question.
I will respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the President of the United States' words mattered more than the President of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
After Trump answers the Putin question, Vance jumps in again. Later, Vance is trying to fight with Zelenskyy, but here Vance is just trying to complain about Biden and is lying as usual. Zelenskyy generally has a lot more patience for Trump than Vance. Zelenskyy sees Trump as a dumb guy who's been listening to Russian disinformation, and Vance is a sleazebag who knowingly spreads disinformation. Vance also tried to make himself the face of opposition to Ukraine aid when he was a senator, especially after Mike Johnson became Speaker of the House. But a big part of why Zelenskyy jumps in is because he spent the whole meeting asking for action while Trump just wants talk. And Vance is claiming Trump is all about action and Biden was all about talk, even though Biden kept acting to send weapons to Ukraine.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So He occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact
2015.
2014.
2014 is
2014.
Yeah. So
I was not here.
Yeah, but
that's exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire, all of them told me that he will never go. We signed with him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Count one.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
Now Zelenskyy is going to go back to his ocean point earlier about the Baltic states, but he doesn't do a good job of it this time, and Trump takes it as a threat.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
Feel influenced.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influenced.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country, that's backed you far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once this entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you? You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war,
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country is in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks.
You haven't been alone. You haven't been alone.
We
gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion. We gave you military equipment, and your men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days. This is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I tell you.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of
Accept
times,
that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on. I think it's very important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards. You're buried there. Your people are dying. You're running low on soldiers. Listen, you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look, if you can get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, take it so the bullets stop flying and you stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
with guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't with me.
For you what
that wasn't with me. That was with a guy named Biden who was not a smart person. That was with Obama.
It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards. It'll be a tough deal to make, because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks peace talks? What do you do then? I understand that it's a heated conversation right now.
What are you saying?
She's asking, what if Russia breaks the ceasefire?
Well, what if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now? Okay? What if they broke it? I don't know. They broke it with Biden because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me. Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt where they used him and Russia. Russia. You ever hear of that deal? That was a phony Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scam. Hillary Clinton, Shifty Adam Schiff. It was a Democrat scam. And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war. And he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom. It was disgusting. And then they said, oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia. The 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam. And he had to put up with that. He was being accused of all that stuff. All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened, but he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is, I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great television, I will say that. All right, we'll see what we can do about putting it together. We'll see, I don't know.
And now JD is going to pat Trump on the back.
Come on, let's move. Thank you.
So JD seems to think he and Trump accomplished what they wanted. Trump says the meeting didn't work out well from Zelensky's standpoint, implying it worked out well from Trump's standpoint.
We had a meeting today, as you know, with President Zelenskyy, and I would say it didn't work out exactly great from his standpoint.
What Trump needed to do was make Zelenskyy unpopular with Republican voters, so he could scapegoat Zelenskyy for how Trump couldn't deliver on his ridiculous claims. For years, Trump has been claiming the war never would have started if he were president, and that he could fix everything with 24 hours of magical negotiations if he were president again.
4% of Americans support Russia. The other 44%, these are MAGA, but they're just calling themselves isolationists.
Zelenskyy was very popular with Republicans in early 2022, but that didn't last after years of attacks by Republican politicians and media personalities.
We're kind of like, whoa, brutal focus groups. And I was like, it's even worse when we were screening for people that we thought. Like, we were kind of trying to find the pro-Ukraine strain.
Need to be lowered drastically. We should not be funding parades, Pride Month, surgeries.
The suggestion that we're spending it on ridiculous things like pride events, parades, transgender surgeries or something, right? Just sort of like things that might seem ridiculous on its face to you and I, but I think if you're in the right-wing media ecosystem, you hear it a lot.
It was like over $170 billion that we've sent to them of our money, and he said he doesn't even know where half of it went.
Most of the weapons that are getting sent to Ukraine are either going through the State Department's military financing programs or just direct shipments from the Pentagon to the Ukrainians. And then the money the U.S. is spending on those weapons is to replenish our own stockpiles. So the U.S. taxpayer dollars are going to Raytheon or like name your weapons manufacturer in the U.S.
But not as much as we have, and not now, especially after we found out that they are using the money that was given to them for different like stupid stuff, like fashion shows. So I think cutting them off like cold turkey wouldn't be as bad as a lot of people might think.
About the parades, the pride, the surgery, like there is clearly this disinformation that's out there in sort of right-wing media spaces. And you guys, I think, very smartly asked people where they had watched the Zelenskyy-Trump meeting happen, how they'd heard about it. It was a lot of Fox News or YouTube or kind of like right-wing podcasters.
Yeah, it was like Daily Wire, Candace.
Yeah.
With Republican public opinion shifting, the U.S. paused all military aid to Ukraine, as well as intelligence sharing, except for defensive intelligence.
Russia stepped up its aerial attacks on Ukraine following the Trump administration's suspension of intelligence sharing and military equipment. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said Moscow has carried out hundreds of attacks using ballistic missiles and drones. The U.S. pauses of lethal intelligence sharing, including targeting data for U.S.-provided weapons like HIMARS. We also know it extends to satellite imagery, which is no longer being shared with Ukraine. What's the practical impact of that and the military freeze?
Well, I think we can see the impact. It's certainly, on the one hand, emboldened Russia to really step up the attacks, and it's also not just blindsided, but also partially blinded Ukraine.
But then Zelenskyy had a brilliant plan. Offer a ceasefire that is too short to be meaningful, and which the Russians would never accept.
President Zelenskyy, for some reason, didn't want to be in the photo op, didn't want to be in the room.
He also stayed out of negotiations to avoid having Trump or Vance there, leaving the U.S. with Marco Rubio and Mike Waltz.
Ukraine proposed 3 key points: silence in the skies, stopping missile strikes, bombs, and long-range drone attacks; silence at sea, release of prisoners of war and detainees, both military and civilian. Russia has grabbed a lot of civilians. And return of Ukrainian children who were forcibly transferred to Russia. We can just pause here. I don't see Russia ever agreeing to return all the Ukrainian children they stole, and Russia doesn't want their prisoners of war back.
The prisoner swap is the part Russia would never accept, partly because they don't want their soldiers coming back and telling Russians what's actually happening. But the Russians have also had the initiative militarily for over a year, and they don't want to stop and let Ukraine build better defenses.
The U.S. side proposed taking an even bigger first step, a 30-day full interim ceasefire, not only stopping missile, drone, and bomb attacks, not only in the Black Sea, but along the entire front line. Ukraine is ready to accept this proposal. There's one problem with these peace talks. Russia's not involved. Solyov says Russia won't agree to a ceasefire. Shocker. No, guys, there won't be any ceasefire. There are different kinds of peace. We understand peace completely differently. Our idea of peace is obvious and clear, everything will happen the way we see fit. This is Viktor Sobolev, and he says that Russia will not agree to this 30-day ceasefire.
But just making the offer was enough to let Trump claim that he was the alpha male who dominated Zelenskyy and got a peace deal. That was enough for Rubio and Waltz to get US aid and intelligence back, and when the Russians don't take the deal, it's harder to scapegoat the Ukrainians.
That yes, military aid and intelligence sharing to Ukraine will now resume.
So the specific drama is wrapped up, but I have a feeling we'll be covering Trump's mishandling of the Ukraine war again.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.